My name is Bolam. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives at Actian, a company which produces a data platform called Avalanche. I'm here today with Amy Dickson, who is the Product Manager for the Avalanche Cloud Platform as well, who's going to talk to you a little bit about her journey with the Avalanche Platform, and specifically, I think, about her journey to get here this week.
Okay.
Over to you.
Great. Thanks, Keith. Good afternoon. Sorry, had to check. Morning back home. Afternoon here. So I want to start off my presentation with a bit of an apology. I looked at my title chart last night in like my 90th review of my deck, and I noticed this. I am so sorry. That's what happens when you import a speaker. She can't spell. So sorry. I got it right now. Prioritizing the destination. So what I want to talk to you about today is the importance of providing tools and resources and templates and technologies to enable data analysts to be able to get to the important work that they want to do faster. You know, the business today wants, needs, demands the insights that analytics provide. How can we expedite that process of getting to that value? So first, I've just got a couple charts about who Actian is. How many people in the room have heard of Actian? Okay, we need to improve on that. Next year when I'm here, we're going to have way more hands in the air, right? Okay, good. So Actian's in the data business. We have more than 50 years of experience. 50 years. Now, looking out over the audience, that's more years than most of you have been alive. Let's just put it out there. That's a long time. And we have thousands of customers that we're helping drive the critical business outcomes that their business has. We've been true pioneers in this data space. How many people have heard of Ingress database? Excellent. More hands. Informix. Okay. Products like that. What this makes us is we are true data experts. We've been working in this space for, oh my Lord, half a century. All right, that sounds worse than 50 years. We're going to stick with 50 years. Okay? So we have people and technologies that are proven and experts in this space. All right? We have over 10,000 customers across our product set, across all of these different industries around the world that rely on our solutions to make their businesses successful, right? So I want to talk a little bit about, and this is strange, but if you knew me, you would know, well, I'm going to talk about me for a few minutes here. How many of you flew here? A couple. All right. So I live in Southwest Florida where it's beautiful year-round. It's true, I live in paradise, but it makes for a slightly longer trip to get here. So if there were a direct flight, it says it would take about 10 hours and 20 minutes. Well, there's actually no nonstop flight from where I live to here. And no, you're not supposed to be able to read that. It's just sort of a lot of steps to get here, right? I needed to take an Uber to the airport. Then I took my first flight to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I had a 3-hour layover, where I took a flight to London, where I was supposed to get on the Heathrow Express, but apparently there was a train issue and the Heathrow Express wasn't running, so I got to take the underground and got totally lost, but it was a good trip. Anyhow, so with that said, with all of those steps, that's 18 hours, door to door, from the time I left my front door till when I got here on Tuesday. And the issue is, what did I do to make that trip as stress-free, frictionless as possible, right? So it was all about my trip, my way. Self-service, being able to do as much as I could for myself, was the key to making it frictionless and stress-free. Right? So it all started when I got notification that I was coming to the conference. I brought up our travel planning app at work, and I immediately booked my flights, booked my hotel. I was good to go. Then it was Monday, and it was time to travel. Actually, before then. Because of the fact that our trip site is connected to all my personal accounts, I was able to monitor the American app to make sure I got the perfect seat, an aisle seat. I was supposed to not have anybody sitting next to me, but well, that's okay. Anyhow, then I got to the airport. They scanned my ID, and I scanned my boarding pass that I'd already received. because I'm a control freak and I don't want to take the chance that my luggage might actually get lost, not get here with me. I don't want to have to deal with, it's an 18-hour trip. I didn't want to have to deal with collecting my bags and whatever. I carry my bag out, stow it overhead. I had a 3-hour connection in Charlotte, so I used the kiosk outside of one of the restaurants there to order and pay for my meal. It arrived to my table on time as ordered. When I was done, I could just get up and leave. When I got here to Heathrow, I was able to use my U.S. passport to go through my the e-gates. Those are lovely, by the way. If you haven't experienced them, very nice. Then, all right, well, so this part of the trip didn't work out so well. I prepaid my Heathrow Express ticket, which I still have to figure out how to get a refund on, but that'll happen. And then all along the trip, I took advantage of the self-serve hand sanitizer. Nobody's wearing masks, or very few, but there's sanitizer everywhere. So why did I just bore you with all of this detail about my trip? All right? It's all about, we're all focused, no matter what business we're in, we're all focused on the customer experience, right? And making the customer experience, their journey, as frictionless and fast and easy as we possibly can. And we're using data to do that. And one of the key things we're doing to make that customer experience frictionless is we're enabling customers to do so much more themselves, so that they don't have to interact with your company, so they don't have to make a phone call, they don't have to send an email. Everybody has an app today or a website where everyone can do things self-service, and that's what this trip was all about. Making it as self-service and frictionless so that that customer experience, my journey, was as frictionless as possible. So that got me to thinking. It got me to thinking about this particular saying by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And before people correct me, it truly does not have an apostrophe in the first "it's." I guarantee you, my editor fixed it and I had to change it back. It's not the destination, it's the journey, right? That's what we're taught in our entire lives, is it's the journey. The journey is what's important, all right? Well, I kind of had a revelation as I was working on this presentation. It isn't always about the journey. Sometimes, often, it really is about the destination and making sure that you get through the journey as fast and easily without friction as you can. Now, of course, it all depends on the context, right? This was a business trip. I knew I needed to be here and rested and whatever to get going yesterday, right? But then again, there are trips where I add an extra couple days up front or a couple days back, where the journey is important, or when I travel with my husband, etc. But for a lot of us, the journey is just a way to get to the destination, and we're looking to do that without friction, without having to request help. Now, there are tons of cases, this is where it goes to, it depends on the context, where you don't care about self-service. You're taking a trip and you want to have a travel agent arrange everything for you and hand you that folder that has all of your arrangements in it, all right? But there's a lot of cases where it is about getting to the destination as fast as you can. All right, so what does this have to do with data and analytics, all right? Especially as it comes to data engineering. Well, so what I am proposing is, you know, we've got, this chart shows a really, really super simplified process flow from data to analytics to action, right? And arguably, action is our end game, right? This is all about how do we give the business insights so that they can take action, they can make decisions, they can introduce a new product, they can introduce a new marketing plan, they can streamline the manufacturing, all right? And how do they get those insights? By doing analysis, by analyzing the data that we have available to them, right? So what I'm proposing here is that analytics and action are the destination, and all of the really hard and important work of data engineering is the journey. And so what I want to talk about is, how do we do that journey today, all right? So today's journey from data to analytics to action, right? So someone in the business decides they need to know something. You know, if we have all of this data, why can't we understand what our customer behavior is better? Why can't we understand our supply chain? Why can't we understand the results of our most recent marketing campaign? Why? All right? Or maybe it's somebody in one of your data analysts or one of you who says, you know, if I just had this data, I would know this. All right? Well, so somebody wants to get that data and they want to do that analysis. All right? So then we go to IT and we say, hey, listen, I need this data from here and this data from here and this data from here. And IT says, that's awesome, but everybody wants data. You know, we've got projects out through the end of the month. We'll get it to you the first part of next month. Okay. Well, now management wants to know, where's my results? Where's my analysis? I asked you for this 3 weeks ago. Why don't I have data? I have a quarterly meeting. I have a monthly meeting. I have an operations review. And then the finger pointing starts. The data analysts say, we're ready to do the analysis as soon as we get the data, but the IT can't get us the data. IT says, hey, listen, we've got a ton of other projects. What would you like us to deprioritize so that we can work on this? There's laughing. Is that because that's what happens for you guys? Excellent. Anyhow, so there's finger pointing going on. And finally, somebody has a late night, whether it's IT pulling the data together, whether it's the data analysts doing the analytics and coming up with those insights. But all in all, it is not an ideal situation, right? So if analyze and act are our destination, and I'm saying the destination can be the most important thing, how can we get the data analysts there faster? And what I'm going to talk about for the next few minutes is by enabling them with self-service tools that enable them to get as far through that journey as they possibly can on the same platform and technologies that data engineering uses. All right? Now, before everyone goes, absolutely not, we can't give our data analysts and business analysts that capability. No, they can't be trusted. I'm not saying always. I'm saying they're obviously going to be, remember I said before, it all depends on the context, right? There are situations where it is business critical. You are doing an enterprise-wide customer 360 data engineering project so that you can have all of this data available all of the time. Not a place where you want to just let your data analysts go free. Sorry if there are data analysts in here who don't agree with me. But there are lots of cases, especially in exploratory phases, right? If I just had this data, if I could pull this information together, I know those headphones are crazy uncomfortable, aren't they? I'm sorry. I've been to a couple sessions. Remember that. I'm sure there are questionnaires after the conference is over. Anyhow, but there are lots of projects where, all right, I'm a product manager, and I was asked to do some analysis about uptake of our recent software release. All right? So that should be pretty easy, right? I got customer lists, I have download lists from support, et cetera, but it's all just-in-time information. And I have to ask, okay, support, can you give me that list of downloads? Oh, can you give it to me by customer? Can I get the customer information from our CRM system, et cetera, et cetera? I was able to get a snapshot of this is what it looks like today. But I needed to report on that monthly. So every month I had to send those same emails and do the exact same thing. And let's face it, analytics tool number one, Excel. So I'm doing this all in Excel. None of this is replicable. So what if I had had the ability with data services provided to me by the appropriate teams to pull that data in on the frequency I needed it to be able to have that insight? All right. So now that we hopefully agree that there are cases where it makes sense to empower the data analysts and business analysts to get at that data, I want to look at it from a slightly different view. Let's look at the 4 W's of that approach. Who, what, where, and when. Who should be able to prepare the data, get the data available? Anyone should. And I'm going to go into more detail on each one of these. What kind of data should they be able to incorporate for their analyses? Anything. They should be able to connect to anything that they need, within bounds, of course. Where should those integrations be able to be run? Where should they be able to access data? Anywhere. And when should they be able to run those integrations? Anytime, in any cadence. So let's talk about anyone. What we're saying is anyone should be able to connect to data. And you need to have a tool set that supports the wide spectrum of skills, right? So today, most of that connectivity is done by your integration specialists or your developers, all right? What if you had a set of tools that enabled you to collaborate across all of the different users who have data and have needs to get data? You have your business analysts who want to be able to get data. Maybe it's access where they do the connectivity themselves. Maybe it's data services that IT or integration specialists make available to them to execute when they need that data. Maybe it's the actual integration specialists themselves who this is what they do. They are data engineers. That's what they're doing, is building that connectivity, building those data pipelines and making it available. A developer who says, yeah, those integration tools, they aren't enough. We need to use some APIs and invoke that and embed it in our application. And then finally, IT operations who needs to manage those, right? So you need a set of tools that can cover all of those different personas, right? From data analysts, and I highly doubt you can see this in the back because, well, it's a screen capture and it's absolutely tiny. You have different role-based tools, right? A data analyst is not a programmer, although they can be. I take that back, they can be. And the fact of the matter is, they don't have time to learn all of the tools that they need in incredible detail. But they can drag and drop. They can use functions like Excel. They can write complex logic. They can write SQL. Give them the tools they need. Then hire tools that allow you to do more stuff, more complicated tasks, more steps, things like what you see on the right, a complicated data pipeline. Connect to anything, okay? Now we've talked about the fact that you need tools that enable everyone to interact to get the data. But what data? Any data. And that data can be anywhere. It might be applications you have on premise. It may be SaaS applications. It may be a third-party application that has APIs, internal applications that have REST APIs. REST APIs are a wonderful thing that have made so much data available to us compared to proprietary integration technologies back from when I started in this field. You may have processes that are running that produce events that you need to incorporate. You may even have data that's on devices or at the ends. Things, IoT. Data that's coming from mobile, from cloud storage, right? The right data platform should provide connectors to these things, the majority of them, as well as the right capabilities to make it easy to integrate with things via REST APIs, because that's where so many people are going today, and or even programmatically, if there are third-party systems or proprietary systems that you need to connect to that aren't supported, all right? So here you have kind of two kinds of views. On the left is a data source catalog, right? Maybe your integration specialists or your developers create connectors that the data analysts can use. Maybe you don't want to give free rein. Maybe you do. But maybe you want to control what data, the volume of data, the fields of data, etc., that your data analysts can get at by defining, here is a Salesforce connector for getting account data, etc., etc. You can make those available to data analysts so they don't have to know anything about API keys or any of the rest of that. Or maybe on the right, your integration specialists, they can use any connector they want and they can configure them and set retry intervals and what to do if there's a failure of data or service. Okay? Doing time-wise. All right. So then the third part is, where should they be able to get at their data and execute? Anywhere they want to. You might want to be able to execute on the cloud in an integration as a service where they don't need to install anything on their desktop. They just access their tooling on a browser. They may want to be able to use actually an embedded integration, whether it's embedded in a device or another application, or another process that they're executing. They may want to execute their integrations on-premise because of the fact that all the data is on-premise. Or they may want to do just to bring your own license and actually execute in a virtual private or public cloud. And our last W was, where should they be able to execute those? Oops, sorry, I got ahead of myself. This is just a screen showing connecting, deploying, and managing anywhere, right? The last one is when. When should they be able to execute those? The key is to be able to create integrations that you can invoke anywhere and anytime you want to. The same integration. The days where you have to create one integration that executes on events and another one that executes on schedule, those days are gone, or should be gone, right? So you may want to schedule the integration to run. For me, when I was doing that information where I needed to do product release adoption, I wanted to run it monthly because that's how often I needed to report it to my manager, right? But it might be on demand. Maybe it's just something where, you know, I updated this analysis 2 weeks ago. I want to update it again today. So you just want to say, execute it now. Or maybe it's on event. I want to update this analysis every time a new order comes in, every time a new customer is created, or whatever. Or you can actually execute via REST API so that it's actually part of your application. Okay? And here's an example that shows how simply you create a simple integration and you're able to invoke it in whatever style you want to, that I just mentioned. All right? So we've talked about the types of capabilities you'd want to be able to provide in a self-service way, but that also leverage you to use the same platform between a data analyst and your data engineers, right? Well, so we talked about the 4 of them. I'm going to argue there's another W and 2 more A's. So it's 5 W's to 6 A's. Why is this important? Why are these capabilities important? And it's all about where we started out. It's about the destination. It's about enabling your data analysts to be able to do their analysis earlier, faster, without dealing with delays, so that your business gets those insights, can make decisions, and take actions. As I mentioned, not always. The context has to come into play, but there's a lot of projects where this could actually provide significant value.
Thank you, Amy. That was a most enlightening talk about how you get here and what data engineering is all about. So perhaps now we can actually talk a little bit more about what we at Actian actually do, what we're providing, and what is our message to you, the customers and prospects, that we aim to be one of the most flexible and easy to use data platforms. What do we mean about that? Well, it highlights what Amy's been talking about, the self-service aspects of data. The fact that we can use, with the platform that we're providing in the cloud, all of the things, big data, the data you have can be processed and manipulated, transformed, stored, and back, so reported on to Amy. So, connecting. What have we got that helps you to connect? Well, we all know that you've got other databases, you've got applications which you need to connect to in order to do something with them. They've got their own interfaces which you will be using all the time. But if you want to get access into them, like the Salesforce example we had before, you can access that data within the Salesforce application, or you can actually take it out and use it in a different environment. So our tools allow you to connect into that, and we have many of them. As a small aside, I was asked today if we actually had a WordPerfect connector. I think there's many people here who don't even know what WordPerfect might be, but I think we know what Word is, and WordPerfect came way before that, in the start of my career of working with data. So managing the data, how do we manage that? Well, in the platform. Well, we take away all of the roles which you would normally have in your traditional data center, the backups, the archiving, the making sure that your power supplies are working, that UPS is there, that you've got a generator to back up your UPS should the system, so the countrywide electricity services fail. So we take on that and we manage that role on your behalf. It's a managed service. In the analyzing phase, with the tools which Amy was talking about, the connectivity tools, the integration tools, we're allowing you to take control. So there is a studio your analytic workflows from. that will use the connectors and it'll use the targets that you choose. Now you can choose our platform, you can choose our data warehouse, you could use your own warehouse and sources. It all works together as a seamless mechanism. Why do we think that we can analyze it better than in our system than you can elsewhere? It's the performance. We're built to scale. And Emmy was referring to the REST APIs. There are many cases where we are looking at the total cost of ownership, return on investment. We don't want to have a massive system running when we don't need it. So at the end of the month, we may have a lot more processing to do than we have earlier on. Obviously, he's got more things. That's good. Thank you. So who are our customers and why have they chosen to use Actian products? There's a few names on here which I'm sure that everybody could recognize. There's the AA. They use our systems to do auto quotes and house insurance quotes. They respond to, such as the comparethemarket.com, where they have to respond within a couple of seconds in order to reach the first page. In fact, to reach the first page, you have to reply to these aggregators within the first second because they are really pushing things. And in that 1 second, they have to do a analysis to work out if they want to quote for a particular car, for a particular driver, and how much they should charge. That is all handled by our analytics engine, which is handled in the cloud, which is the data warehouse called Avalanche. Expandium, they've been with us for many years now, and they perform analysis on the mobile phone and train mobile data networks, looking for the anomalies in the services and making sure that everybody is, certainly the cases of the TVR, is running safely. Jones Apparel, which is in there, which is our American one amongst these, they were moving away from an old SAP system, and they needed to put their data somewhere where they could actually use it still and keep access to it. So we use our connectivity tools to connect into the old SAP system using the connectivity tools that we have and migrate their old data into the new Avalanche platform. PredictX, who will be somewhere in the keynote theatre. I think it's at 3:30, Amy? I can't quite read.
Yes.
Okay, it's 3:30 in the keynote session. We've got Sept, who is the CEO of PredictX, and they are currently using our technology to service their business. Without our technology, their business doesn't really exist at the moment. They've moved from on-premise, which is the vector database at that point, into using the Avalanche Cloud in the Google Cloud Platform for a major company which is worldwide. Thank you. So what do we bring to the services that we make data easy? We bring us. We bring Actian, we bring the people. We make life easy for you by doing the hard work. Thank you, Amy. It's the thank you slide.
Well done. Thank you very much.
So I think we possibly 2 minutes left. So if there are anybody who's got some questions, we can take those up here or out on the floor.